to everyday life in Egypt.
And now we are joined over the phone by Mr. Samir Abbas, tourism expert and researcher in Egyptian history. Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning, Shireen.
Mr. Samir, as Egypt is marking the International Museums Day on May 18th, how will Egypt mark this special occasion?
So Egypt has many events took place. First of all, there is a free entry. There is a good news that there is a free entry for the museums in Egypt, and but this free entry is for Egyptians, just not for confusing foreigners as well. They will expect to have a free entry on that day. But what I know that for the Egyptians, they will have a free entry, which is a very good, a very good approach. And not only actually for that day, but that museums in Egypt is not only belongs to the Ministry of Archaeological Affairs, but also there's many museums that belongs to the Ministry of Cultural Affairs. And this museum organizing more events, more lectures, workshops, not only for today, but they started already from May 16 and they extend until May 20 for almost a week. And the surprise is there is nearly 150 museums all over Egypt. Almost 1/3 of them, 50, are archaeological museum, but the rest are culture museums, not archaeological museums.
So, Mr. Samir, why is the 18th of May chosen to mark the International Museum Day?
It started in 1977.
Yes.
That was this event there was a big event took in Russia, and that was sponsored by the International Council of Museum, which is called ICOM, and that was they decided in that day to promote for a World International Museum Day in order to increase the public and international awareness of museums and the importance of museums as an educational tool.
So, sir, what role do virtual tours play in making culture more accessible to people outside major cities?
That's a very good point, because you're talking about like virtual reality now. I remember that in around 1992, I read a very interesting book about virtual reality, and that was a very early stage of talking about virtual reality. And I think that the book was already printed maybe 5 or 6 years before I read it, and that was talking about many things which is happening today. It was talking about the chance of going around the world, not only seeing but also sensing and feeling things while staying at home. So I had the chance to visit many museums around the world, and virtual reality is very much integrated now in many of the museums. Even in some churches, in some historical churches in Europe, there is a hall dedicated to virtual reality where you go and take the VR and wear it, and they bring back this church or these monuments back alive to you as it used to be back in the ancient time, which is in other words, as a time machine, as if you went on a time machine to see how things was happening. And I remember that I'd seen that, I experienced that in a church in Europe, and I experienced that also in Europe. That was a Cleopatra museum that was focused on Alexandria, the city of Egypt, and the history of Cleopatra. And with virtual reality was able to bring the history back of Alexandria back to see how the city looks like. Major events happens in the city using virtual reality and in an interactive way, which is you walk and explore yourself, the city in that time.
Yes, also the Egyptian state under the leadership of President Fattah Sisi has always been keen to renovate museums across the country, and many of them were reopened again after renovation. So tell me more about this.
So, of course, the biggest and the big example is the Grand Egyptian Museum, which is it's like a world wonder now, and I'm sure that we talked a lot about the Grand Egyptian Museum, but today I would like to attract attention to some other museum might be as famous as the Grand Egyptian Museum. Very important. One of these museums, which is considered the oldest museum ever made in Egypt, around 1895, as far as I remember. And this museum is called the Greco-Roman Museum in Alexandria. And this museum has been renovated and reopened almost a year and a half ago in one of the best examples of museums in Egypt. It is not as big as the Gem, but includes a very important part of Egyptian history displayed in a very unique way.
Yes, also we can't talk about the museums without mentioning the Grand Egyptian Museums, one of the great achievements of the Egyptian state. And why did the Times refer to the Grand Egyptian Museum as a new world wonder?
So can you rephrase your question again, please?
Yes, I'm talking about the Grand Egyptian Museum.
Yes.
And the Times magazine referred to the Egyptian Museum as a new world wonder. So how do you see this?
Yes, so the unique thing about the Grand Egyptian Museum is not only a building, it is integrated in the archaeological site of Giza as well, and that is the beauty of the building. It's like a complex of museums. It's not only one building, it's a complex, because when you go there, it's not only the main showroom, which is explain the Egyptian history or the antiquities of ancient Egypt, but also there's an outdoor display showing things, how it was displayed normally in reality, showing one of the unique pieces around the world, which is Sunboat Museum, a wooden boat, cedar wood, as early as old as 4,500 years, it is a miracle to be preserved all that long. And the most important that it has a very interactive tools to show the visitors how museum work is being done, how renovation has been done. There is a project which is already ongoing in the Grand Egyptian Museum now of rebuilding or renovating the second boat, which is as old as the first one, the 4,500 years old one, but the sailboat belongs to Khufu. And the unique thing that they will do the work in the eye and the witness of the visitors. So they are doing the work, and that's a very long process, a very detailed process, and that was very smart because that shows the people what is the backstage, how things has been made, and how guests and visitors they will value much more what they see in the museum, not only this museum and many other museums, and hopefully the project of connecting the museum with Giza, which is actually this project I talked about it almost in the Nile TV almost 5 years ago during the even before the inauguration, that I told that there should be pathway to connect the Grand Egyptian Museum with Giza pyramids across the Fayoum Road, and I'm very happy that that now we are already not only talking, but already there is an ambitious project of doing this work.
Yes,
this
I'd like
Mr.
Samir, unfortunately we're running out of time. I'd like to thank you so much, Mr. Samir Abbas, tourism expert and researcher in Egyptian history. Thank you, Mr. Abbas, for being with us. And by that, we come to the end of today's edition of The Breakfast Show. Thank you for watching.